All right, good afternoon, EM aficionados. It is Friday, October 3rd, 2025, and I'm here on the Helios Nanolab 600i again, and well, I'm kind of stuck. So I don't know what happened, but I came in and I found the chamber completely vented. Sometimes what I've seen on this system is, for some reason, the roughing pump to the turbo for the chamber will just like randomly shut off. Let me show you actually really quickly here. So this is the vacuum diagram of the microscope, and this is the chamber. So the chamber is pumped by a turbo molecular pump here, TMP1, which is backed by a roughing pump or pre-vacuum pump 1, and then you have a cold cathode gauge which actually measures the chamber vacuum, which you see right here. When you open up this control window, so again, this is an XP, Windows XP system. In your microscope server, you're going to find TST MDL vacuum, and that pulls this up, and you can see the vacuum diagram. So anyways, the units for this are all in millibar. In the actual UI, you can set this to be in different units if you want, but in the actual server window items here, they're in millibar. Anyways, there are trip levels, so you can see, right, all of these are in green, so we're below the trip level where it's satisfactory to actually use the microscope. But this is actually not very good. I mean, even though it's passable, this is not very good as far as vacuum is concerned. Okay, so on this system, from experience, what I know is that we should be able to get this chamber pressure, because normally I like to deal in torr. That's what most people deal with. It is not millibar but torr. You know, they're not that different. There's the equivalency in millibar is a little bit higher, but the what we can do on this system, ultimately we can get this into the high -7 torr range. Okay, and if the chamber was already under vacuum when I came in and loaded the samples and then pumped it back down, I should have been able to get this easily into like the mid E-6 torr range within just a few minutes. Okay, so the reason that's important is the quality of the vacuum will affect the imaging, and it will really affect the FIB imaging. Okay, so the FIB in particular will be very sensitive to the vacuum quality. So the lower the quality of the vacuum, meaning the higher the chamber pressure, the worse your FIB image is going to look. Okay, the reason for that is those FIB ions are not traveling as fast as the electrons. Okay, so they're more easily scattered, and if your vacuum is not that good, it's going to blur your image. Okay, this was this was 10 picoamps. Okay, this was 10 picoamps. I think when I took this, the chamber pressure was about double this, but we should be able to get a way better image at 10 picoamps than this. Okay, this was also at 30 kilovolts. As the voltage goes down, the effect of this is going to be even worse. Okay, this is especially true when you get into the lower FIB voltages, that you really need the vacuum to be good in order to get optimal performance. Okay, meaning accurate milling, you know, crisp imaging, all of that. Okay, so if you come in and you find that the chamber has been vented for an extended period of time, the question then is, what can you do, right? How can you recover the vacuum quickly? Okay, so to a degree, some of this has to do with the climate where you are. So unfortunately, you know, I'm in Florida here, and it's very humid. Okay, there's a lot of issues, or I shouldn't say issues, this is just the way it is, but there's a lot of water vapor in the air in places like Florida. Okay, and the water vapor is really tough for the vacuum system to pump. That's usually the main issue, is water vapor. Okay, if you live in a drier climate, like you're in, you know, like Arizona, or somewhere in the Southwest, This may not be as much of a problem because the air is drier and you can probably recover the vacuum a little quicker. You know, obviously we're indoors, we're not out in the elements, but this still ends up kind of transferring into the room environment anyway, okay? That being said, if the chamber has been left vented for like many hours or like a day or more, it could take a while to get back to ultimate chamber pressure, okay? So if you don't want to wait, one of the things you can do to help hurry this along is to repeatedly vent and pump the chamber, okay? So this is like a purging, if you will, right? So basically, every time we vent, right, what it's doing here is it's shutting off the pumps, and then it's opening the vent valve and the valve for the nitrogen, okay? And so then it's purging basically this entire line here and into the chamber with dry nitrogen, which has, or in our case, this is UHP nitrogen, has no water vapor in it or air or anything. It's very clean, and that will help to get the water vapor out of the system, okay? So if you do those purges like that, and you might have to do a few of them, right? You might have to do like many of these in order to expedite things, okay? But this could save you some time, okay? Unfortunately too, right, in our system here, we actually have tanks that do this. So every time we do a purge or event, we're actually spending nitrogen, right? And then eventually we have to, you know, plumb in a new tank. So, I mean, at the other facility, we have basically like an unlimited supply of nitrogen, so that's less of a concern, but we don't here. We actually have tanks that we, you know, we put in or we plumb in, and then periodically they have to be replaced. So, you know, every time we do that, we're wasting nitrogen. So, you know, if you don't have an unlimited supply of nitrogen, which maybe you don't, then your only other option is you just gotta wait, okay? So the moral of the story here is, and sometimes you can control this, right? Like, I don't know why the chamber lost vacuum. Again, I've seen that happen where the TMP, or I think it's the roughing pump actually, not the TMP, because the TMP has to be backed. Again, let me pull up the diagram here. But the TMP is backed by the pre-vacuum pump, and if the pre-vacuum pump doesn't stay on, the TMP will shut off, okay? So I think that's the issue, is with the pre-vacuum pump and not the TMP, but for some reason, like, that will randomly turn off. You know, sometimes that's a sign that the pre-vacuum pump is failing and needs to be replaced. You know, it depends on how frequently it happens, but, you know, I've seen this happen specifically on this system occasionally, and apparently it happened, you know, within the last like day or so. So anyways, you know, you're kind of in a rock and a hard place at this point, and really you just gotta wait, right? So, you know, when I actually, and I didn't even notice this, right? I took this image at 10 picoamps and I was mortified. I'm like, that looks like crap, you know, like what's going on? And then I realized, like, the vacuum's crap, okay? The vacuum's crap, this needs to get way better, and then you'll get a way better image. And of course, that's at 30 kilovolts, right? So it's only gonna get worse when when the voltage goes down, okay? When you're doing like your low kilovolt steps. So, like, let me show you this image here. Let me show you this here. So I actually took this yesterday. I'm gonna put this up on another video, by the way. But let me show you, where is it? Here it is. Okay, so this is 2 kilovolts and 8.9 picoamps, okay? But this was when the vacuum was like high -7 torr, okay? So you can see how good that looks for 2 kilovolts, okay? So, you know, I think the image I just showed you was better than this, but not by a huge margin, right? I mean, at least not in my opinion. I mean, here, let me pull it back up here, because I saved it. So let me go back here. Okay, that's 1,000, that's 10 picoamps. that's 10 picoamps. Maybe what I saw here was 1,000. I'm not sure, but and then let me open up the 2 kilovolt one. Okay, so I mean, yeah, this is definitely better than this, right? But at the same time, right, you can see, you know, the effect of having a good vacuum, right? That's a great low kilovolt image, but that's enabled partially by the fact that the vacuum's really good, okay? So anyways, you know, just wanted to point that out. I thought, you know, since I can't do anything because I'm waiting for the vacuum to recover, you know, I would at least, you know, take this time to make a quick hitter video here. So hope you found that useful. Hope that's you know, something for you to consider when you're working on your dual beam system, and you know, mainly if you're doing FIB work, right? So like this is only for the FIB, okay? This really doesn't have an impact on the SEM. When the vacuum is in the -5 torr range, this is not going to appreciably impact the SEM, okay? Those electrons are moving way too fast for that to be an issue, but it's not the same with the FIB, okay? So I actually took a very good image with the SEM right after I got the chamber vacuum back. This was like, I think, MIDI -5 torr when I took this. Well, actually, here, I can show you this. So I took this image here. Where are we? There we go. Okay, so I took this like right off the bat here. Okay. And you can see like that's a nice UHR SEM image, okay? So not as much of an effect right on the SEM, but way more of an effect on the FIB. Anyways, that's the quick hitter video I wanted to do while I'm waiting for the paint to dry. And hope you're having a good Friday, and take care, everyone.